Anyways, so we got Coach Sefcik on, obviously the head coach at Marist. You guys either play for him, you compete against him. I'm not sure. I'm sure you guys know this, but Coach is 7-year big league vet. And before we get into our big board today, I want him to talk because again, Coach is a guy that kind of grew up in the non-metric, the, things have changed, and I think Coach was a guy that was the guys that have been on the calls, we talk about being consistent. We talk about knowing what you're going to get every day in a baseball player. That's a really good way to stay on the field. Proving your consistency, never too high, never too low. And I know Coach gets fired up, but he's got a real cool mentality. So I know, like, when he played, he had to have played even keel. And I'm making these assumptions, Coach, but I know you're going to follow up. Talk about real quick, when you played and you got to the big leagues, you probably weren't the toolsiest guy around. There was probably guys a lot bigger than you. There were guys that could hit the ball a lot farther, can throw the ball harder across the infield. But mentally, like, what was the grind like for you to bring it every day and to overcome kind of those toolsy guys and to beat those guys out? And, give some advice right now before we get into this big board on your mentality as a player, not as a coach, just as a player, in your career and how you got to the big leagues. What like reflecting now, like, how'd you get there? And that's, I think it's got to have a lot of value because these guys that are listening to you right now, a lot of these guys, they're you. So give them some advice on your journey and what helped you get to the big leagues.
Well, I'll just start a little bit with college. I won't go too long in college, but I went to St. Xavier, and for you guys that, you guys don't know the St. Xavier that I knew. Like back, we're talking like 1990, was when I was playing here, 90 through 93. Like St. Xavier, Lewis University, College St. Francis, we would have 2 to 3 guys drafted off our team every year. The recruiting back then was, if you got to Illinois or a Big Ten school, you're like a stud. Like, and so a lot of kids just kind of stuck in this area, and so a lot of the local baseball. You guys know Ben Zobrist. Ben Zobrist went to Olivet Nazarene, which is in St. Xavier's conference. So, a lot of good players played in that kind of baseball. And the great thing about it was, we had unlimited schedules, so we could play 40 games in the fall, and then we play another 65 in the spring. We're playing 105 games a year, and it was just awesome baseball against good players. And back then, all the Division I schools would play us. So like Northwestern would be on our schedule, and Bradley would be on our schedule, and Illinois State would be a doubleheader. And then things have changed so much. So, I played at St. X, but I played against a really good competition. It was almost like playing a somewhere between like a D1, D2 type of schedule.
Coach, real quick, when you guys played, like, and I don't want to use like the Sparks mentality, but it's like, the Sparks kind of playing a national Evo Shield Canes or whatever. Like when you guys played Northwestern or Illinois or those big, I'm assuming you guys competed, but it was probably like, hey, let's show these guys.
Like we went down to Illinois State, we swept them.
Yeah, that's cool.
We had 2 pitchers. One guy won the 5th round, one guy won the 9th round on my team one year, and we won like 60 games. So it was playing really good baseball. And then what I did during my college career is every summer I went away. I did not stay at home any summers. I went to a college league. And you guys all know about the Cape Cod League, and I think you know about the Northwoods League. Well, there's a league back when I played called the Jayhawk League, which is probably the second best league. The Cape Cod has always been the best. The Jayhawk League was the second best league, and that had a lot of the guys from Wichita State and Creighton. Like back when I was playing, Wichita State was the best Division I program in the country back then. Texas, Wichita State, Arizona State, Creighton was outstanding. A lot of the schools that are really good now weren't as strong back in the early 90s. So I would go out and compete against those guys, and that's really how I got better too. Is going from St. X and maybe not play, we face some good arms, and now I'm going to go face everybody. So I was playing about boy, probably playing close to 200 games during the course of a year between the spring, the summer, and then the fall back at school. So got a lot of baseball in. Did not get drafted as a junior. As a junior, I was actually ended up being a first team All American, and then did not get drafted that year. Got offered a couple free agent jobs after the draft by a couple of different teams, and I got offered in August, and I was just getting ready to go back to school. And if you guys know pro ball, minor league baseball ends at the end of August and first week of September. And so what I didn't want to do is I didn't really want to screw my coach and leave, and then they're lost without a guy, and I was only going to really miss, if I was good enough, I was going to get drafted the following year. And so I didn't want to really get in that situation. So I waited till senior year. Didn't have a real good senior year. I'm to be honest with you. I kind of, it was probably a combination of not getting pitched to, trying to do too much. The last chance, trying to get drafted, trying to be a senior leader, and just kind of struggled a little bit offensively, but still ended up going in the 33rd round of the draft, which makes me sad this year, guys, because there's only 5 rounds in the draft this year, and it's the chances of guys getting into the big leagues getting in the 33rd round is not high, but still there's still going to be somebody, and somebody's looking for that chance, and it's kind of sad that there's going to be a lot of guys that don't get a chance to get drafted this year. But going back to getting drafted in the 33rd round, I usually those guys don't get any playing time. I was very fortunate to kind of go to an organization that was struggling at the time. Not a lot of prospects, kind of trying to start over. And I got a starting spot on one of the A-ball teams and ended up hitting like 300 that year, had a really good year, and actually got called up to high A for the playoffs during my first season, and actually had a really good playoff. So, that kind of just got me on the map. And then the next year was a strike year. And so I actually got to start out at AAA. When you guys are watching The Last Dance, when you guys hear about that strike, that's the year I'm talking about, when Michael Jordan quit baseball and went back to basketball. But actually played against Michael Jordan in the Arizona Fall League in the fall of '94. So that was really cool. Played about 5 games against him. And it was funny because, we'd have 20 people at the games when we didn't play him, and then we'd have 4,000 people at the games when we played against the Scottsdale team. So that was really cool to play against Michael during that time. And went to the Fall League, did good. So the thing is that I just did good every year, and I felt like I had to. I felt like as soon as I had a bad year, I was going to get cut, because that's just how it felt. I felt like you just felt like you had to grind through every season, have a good season, try to survive for the next year to get offered a contract, and just try to keep moving up. You don't want to repeat a level. Once you repeat a level, you're already 22 coming out of college. Once you start repeating levels, A-ball twice, something like that, you're just falling behind. And so I just felt the need to keep moving up as much as I could. And I actually got up to the big leagues in '95. So I got drafted in '93 and was up in the big leagues by September of '95, which was pretty quick.
That's really, it's really encouraging that, and like I said, you get drafted in the 33rd round. It's like your mentality says all right, I'm not a huge investment in the organization, and you're going to pay, you passed up so many guys that they paid so much more money to, but at the end of the day, and this was on one of the Zoom calls prior to this, and I told the kids, it's the last man standing that wins. And that's got to be your mentality as you write your own book. You're writing your journey right now, guys, as high school players, but at the end of the day, your book's not over until you're done. And, like coaches is just a great example of that last man standing mentality, where he just kept going. And like you said, it was just got to keep going, never satisfied, got to keep going, got to keep producing. And he knew that, for him, there was no such thing as the mountaintop. He wasn't satisfied with just getting a AA or AAA or whatever the case. And then he was able to create his own luck, seize his opportunity. And the next thing you know, he's freaking in the big leagues. And that's, that's how you get there. You don't sit there and say, well, I got drafted and I'm satisfied now. That's never your mentality. And that's, just hitting home in another example of that never complacency. And like I said, just putting your head down and you go, and Coach, real quick, was there ever a time where, in the minor leagues that you struggled, and kind of what was your mechanism, or how did you deal with it mentally, and then how did you minimize those slumps? Like, I think for these kids in high school, everyone, as the game gets harder, you're going to go through slumps. Give a couple tips on how you dealt with some failure when you were playing.
I got to be honest. Like my slumps were more defensively.
Okay.
I played the infield, and every year that I went back, my first couple of years, I played a different position. So my first year, I played second base, and then I thought I got that kind of figured out. And then the next year, like, hey, you're gonna go play third. So then I played third base, and then the next year, you're like, hey, you're gonna play shortstop. So I played shortstop the next year. But I remember my first full season, I played third base, and I think I had like 13 errors in the first 7 games, and it was like, it was a mess,
No, not good. Not good.
It's not good. It's not good. But they were being patient. They knew that I was moving to a new spot. But I think, you got to believe in yourself. I think what happened was that somehow I got over that hurdle. I took extra balls. You always want to do everything you can to prepare, so that you don't have any regrets about if you do fail. You just want to make sure, hey, get enough work in, get that stuff in. And then, you make a couple plays and you get that good feeling back again. It's just like hitting, you go through a slump and hitting, and then all of a sudden, you have a good game, put a couple good swings on, and then you kind of roll for another 4 or 5 days. And the slumping is tough. It's really harder too for the high school kids and for you guys when you go to travel tournaments. Is when you play every day, it's easier because you got that next day. But sometimes it's hard to sit on it for 2 days, or if you have a bad game on a Sunday and down in Grand Park and you got to sit for 4 more days, that was hard. I always found it harder because when I got called up to the majors, I never started every day. I was never an everyday player, and it was way harder to get over the bad days when you don't play every day. You felt like a starting pitcher at times because, if a starting pitcher has a bad day, he's got to wait 5 or 6 days before he tries again. Or if an NFL football team has a bad Sunday, you got to wait 7 days. But when you're an everyday player, if you have a bad day, you can kind of just, you're about 12 hours away or 15 hours away from getting another at bat and be able to change that. And so, you just try to make sure that you stay positive. You try to have the little things in your batting practices that get you right back on. I always try to think, like, if you're struggling as a hitter, for me it was, okay, the next day in batting practice, I'm going to try to hit the ball the opposite field during BP. Because usually when you do that, everything starts to get synced up more. Usually you're getting a lot of trouble when you try to pull a ball too much. You start getting out in front, you start hooking balls, you get in a bad place, you're missing and breaking balls. And so you always try to find those little things that you can always go back to when you're like, oh, geez, I'm 0 for 10. All right, I'm just going to start over now and fix it. The other thing they called me the mad scientist when I played because I talked to this coach. We talked about this with the younger kids. I was always changing my stance. Like, I was like, if there was a team that came to town and I liked some guy's stance on the other team and I was struggling, I would try different things all the time. And that was good and bad because it's, sometimes something feels good and it's good for a couple of days, but it's not really you. And then, you're back in the crapper again. So you want to, even though you're struggling with some things, you kind of want to stay with the same kind of basic stuff. But I think just the hardest thing is for kids when you're struggling as a hitter is to slow it down, take your singles. Like, I think when we're struggling, we always try to go and hit a 3-run bomb, and that's usually the worst thing you can do. You want to go small, and then when you're hot is when you want to try to get after it. The other thing I would say is, I think what we do is when we're struggling in hitting is we go and hit too much, and I always did that. When I struggle with hitting, I would be in there and taking extra swings. But when you're struggling, you have a bad swing, and so you're repeating the bad swing. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's almost better to take more swings when you're going well to repeat that good muscle memory. But, the last thing you want to do when you're going bad is not work on something, right? It's in your head like, I gotta work on this. But you're working on almost the bad habit too much. And then when we're going good, we don't work as much when we should be enforcing the good habit.
No, and like at the end of the day, the two takeaways that I had right there was when you're going bad, guys, you're just searching for that good thing to happen. And I feel like coaching you guys and coach being around the height, like when one of your players is struggling, but they get that gap shot or they get that barrel, you're like, all right, that's what he needed, or if he makes that tough play to pick up his team in a crucial situation, you're like, you know the guy's there, but they just need you're one play away, you're one at bat away, you're one pitch, you're one big strikeout away from getting back on that horse and riding that bike, And we've had other guys on here, other pro guys on here, and I think the one of the things that every one of them says when they're struggling, they're like, take a break, like just get away from the game, go to a movie. Like Dean Anna was on. He said if I was going bad, I would go to a movie and I would show up to the park like 20 minutes before BP started, and sometimes that just got my feet. I could reset my body and reset everything else, which you were really really in line with, which is good. All right. We're going to hit this big board because I think we got a lot of good things to talk about today. Become a great high school player. And here's the message to you guys. Like, I know everyone on here wants to be a Division I baseball player. I get that. But you got to understand, before you become a Division I baseball player, and I'm talking to the guys that are even committed on this call right now. If you're committed already, that's great. I really, really respect that. And somebody saw you have a good weekend or a good week or whatever. Somebody saw enough to give you that offer. But here's the deal. You got to look yourself in the mirror and say, well, here's my first step. My first step is that if I want to be a good Division I baseball player, well, I got to be the best player on my high school team, plain and simple. And that's got to be your goal. Your feet right now are in the high school season or whatever. You're a high school player. So your goal is to be the best high school player and be the best high school player for your high school. That's your goal, because that confidence and that winning mentality of you producing for your high school is only going to carry over for your college experience. Now, I'm not saying that, there's a lot to go along with if you're committed or being a Division I commit or even a commit. Like, your expectations now for your peers and your high school teammates are above those kids that are not committed. So there's some weight on your shoulder there, but at the end of the day, that weight is got to be the weight that you want. So again, we can't rush this process. The process for you right now is to be the best high school player that you can for your high school. Coach, talk about in your coaching experience, and you've coached some high-level Division I kids, how that process is for you as a coach and the players that you've coached. I know that you've coached some D1 kids that have had bad high school seasons, and you've coached some kids that might have outperformed those D1 kids. And, talk a little bit on that process of being the best high school player that you've experienced from your coaching situation.
Well, I think the guys that have gone on, let's say I have a couple guys, and last year we had a really good group, and I know there's some guys on this screen that were on part of that team last year. You got to do, the guys that are going to big schools, you got to be able to do well against good competition. All right. So you can't expect to not do well against good high school pitchers and then expect to go play at a high level college. It just I haven't seen it happen once. I've seen kids that have walked out. I had a kid my first year in 2015 who was an awesome high school player, had no problem facing all the best pitchers, did really well, was not offered anything. He goes and decides he's going to walk on at Dayton. They didn't even know he was coming to Dayton. He showed up in a tryout. By his junior year, he was the captain of the team. I was not even shocked by that. But I just could not convince anybody to take him because of his size, which was, I'm a small guy. That's the thing that you're always fighting. But I find whenever someone asks me, Coach, what kind of level do you think I can play at? Like, I had a parent send me an email the other day of a younger kid in our program. And I said to him, I cannot tell you that until I see you play at the varsity level and how you do against good competition. I mean, I'm not talking about you have to hit like 5 home runs and get hits every day, but what kind of at-bats do you have against a guy who has a little velocity and can spin it? If you can have good quality at-bats against those guys and you don't look like you have no chance, then you got a chance to play at a higher level, a high JUCO or a high Division I school. You can do that stuff. But if you struggle to do that stuff, then you're probably not fitted to play that kind of level, and it should probably be set in your sights that you're more of a D2 or D3 kind of guy. you have to go out. You can't just say, well, I hit 400 my senior year. Everybody here on this screen, their high school plays a different schedule. Some schools play outstanding schedules and are facing great arms, and guys are hitting like 310. But they're good players because they're facing good guys and they're getting their 1-for-3s off these good arms, or they're going 1-for-3 to walk and knocking a couple runs in. That's a pretty good day against a guy who is going somewhere big and can really throw it. But if you're hitting 400 against guys throwing 78, 79 and don't have a breaking ball, you can't be saying, oh, I should be a Division I recruit. I'm hitting this. I got these kind of numbers. That's how I judge guys. That's how I try to advise my guys when I see them playing. I'm just saying, hey, if you do well, show me that you can do well against the good players, and we can call these kind of schools and see if we can get you a look.
That's really good. And I think there's a lot of value there, because here's the great part about the area that we grow up in. Coach talked on this a lot about in the youth segment is, guys, the competition, you don't have to look far. I don't care if you play in the Catholic League, the SEC, the SICA, there's so many good teams and so many good players in our area. You are going to figure it out. You're going to face a dude at some point. You're not in the middle of nowhere where you can't find a fastball above 85 miles an hour. In the ESCC, it's like, you play 2 games and it's almost like that you're going to face 2 guys that either are Division I guys or they're high level D2 guys, and they're going to be able to pitch. And that's the cool part about the conferences and the talent level in the Chicagoland area, is you're going to be able to look yourself in the face and say, like, yeah, I've had these at bats, or I haven't had these at bats, or I've struck these guys out, or whatever. But I think that coach's point, it's about the competitive at bats. It's about the competitive level. Like, if you're swinging and missing by 10 feet, you're guessing, and you can't guess in this game. So really good to kind of like, don't rush the process, understand where you fit in, but your goal is to be the best high school player for your team. All right. Point number 2, respect your measurables, but understand that they don't paint the picture to who you are as a player. And what I mean by that is we when Coach and I were on the phone earlier before the call, and we talked about kind of what we wanted to touch on. There's so many measurables out there: blast motion, radar guns, drive line, all that stuff. And at the end of the day, okay, what you need to understand is that, are your measurables going up? Are they staying the same, or are they going down, right? Because in any combine type of format, you're going to be assessed on facts. Those facts now come in forms of measurables. 15, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, they didn't have measurables, so scouts were using their eyes and using their ears and all this other stuff. Well, technology's changed the game. And at the end of the day, you got to figure out, is your strength training program working? Is your long toss program working? Am I throwing harder across the diamond? Is my exit velocity going up? Is the ball that's 15 feet from the track now hitting the fence or going over? Those are things that you can measure. Now, do you need to live and die by these things? My opinion is no. But at the end of the day, it's really good to say every month, all right, where am I at? Are my practice and training and strength training and all this other stuff, the stuff that I'm doing, is this helping my game? And at the end of the day, you're going to be assessed at some point in your career by these measurables. So you need to have an idea about where you're at, and you need to retest them on a consistent basis to understand, are you getting better in these categories? Now, understand though, in my opinion, and Coach is going to talk about this in a second, that does, like, for me, you still got to play the game. You still got to be a winning baseball player. You still have to have IQ, instincts, and do the intangibles to help your team win on a daily basis. And for some guys that maybe not have the measurables of a Division I player, that doesn't mean you're not a Division I baseball player. You can be close, a little off with the measurables, but still help a Division I team win baseball games. And that's where the art of scouting and guys that have been around the game for a long time. The kid from Dayton, great example that Coach just made. He probably didn't have measurables that would do anything, but at the end of the day, Coach knew he could play. So, Coach, touch on this aspect a little bit, because I know your team's kind of digging into the measurables, but talk about how you use them and kind of old school versus new school type of mentality for these kids.
Well, I think what measurables do is they offer you more opportunities. Like the people that have the better measurables get more chances to fail. I think that's just a perfect way to put it. You know, if a kid is a first round draft pick, he's going to be allowed to have 1 or 2 bad seasons before they think about getting rid of him. I didn't have a chance to have any bad seasons. So because my measurables, my power, my foot speed, you know, that it was what it was. So you had to be able to play. So the way that I was able to survive is when I got my chances, I did things like hit behind the runner when you had to, got bunts down, threw to the right bases, played, you know, watch the hitters, the way they hit the ball, maybe move over 2 steps left or right in the infield. Just little things like that are the things that you have to do better if your measurables aren't really high. And some of us, you know, we all have a ceiling with our measurables, right? We have to find out what that ceiling is by putting the work in. And then we are what we are, and then we have to do what we can to survive. I mean, that's really how it is. And so we can all survive. We really can. But we just got to figure out how to do it and how much time we're going to put into maybe just the overall mindset of how to play the game. If a guy throws 95 miles an hour, okay, guys, we can't all just go do that. We can't just all go and do a throwing program and then throw 95. Otherwise, everybody would do it. I mean, am I right? Am I right? So we have what we have. We try to max out what we have. We try to max out how fast can we get, how strong can we get, how hard can we throw, how much can we get our bat speed. And so, you know, a lot of these things are out there now that I encourage some guys on our team during this off period to buy the blast motion sensor. They dropped the price down to like $75. And the reason I told them to do that was, you know, you can believe in that sensor or not. The fact is that everybody's using it. Major League Baseball's using it. College baseball using it, and now all the showcases you guys are going to go to it because they all, you know, I think PBR just got a thing with them and TrackMan, and all this stuff is being used. So it's a tool that you need to use. It's a tool that you try to, you know, get as good at as you can so that your numbers are good. And I think that'll maybe that has a chance to open up more opportunities. There's a lot of coaches out there, guys, that cannot judge talent that great. And so they're starting to use this stuff. And so they use this stuff like, well, his exit velo is this, but they don't really know if he has a good swing or not, you know. And I'm glad that exit velo might be going out the door, and the blast motion thing might be taken over, because you guys go to these showcases and you get on the tee to do your exit velo, and the guy's got the longest swing in the world, and is never going to catch up to a real pitch. But when you use the blast motion sensor, it actually tells, you know, how long your swing is and your bat speed. There's a lot of different dynamics to do that. So it's something you guys should maybe look into. I don't think it's a huge investment into your, as far as money goes, it's not off the charts, but like a lot of these little things you might want to try to use, especially on this time that you can't get out in the field and you can work on this stuff.
Yeah, it's really, and I think that's right in line with where I'm at with all this stuff is you got to understand your feels. You got to understand your in-game swings. But at the end of the day, it's really, you know, it's a good tool all these things are great tools to just measure where we're at and how we're getting better and where we can improve. And that's like I said, the blast stuff is good because it talks about swing plane, talks about how fast you're going from point A to point B. It's like different stuff than just how far, you know, how hard the ball's coming off the tee, which, you know, any 6'5" guy that has no clue how to swing can go up there and get a good exit velo. So That's really good. You know, last point here that we're going to hit home with is that, you know, the grass isn't always greener. Find the right fit for you. And, you know, everyone has these dreams, and I'm not knocking anyone's dreams on here for a Division I, SEC school, whatever the case is that you guys have. But at the end of the day is if you can identify, and you could do this through your high school season, what type of player you are based on the competition you face, based on your successes versus, you know, other high caliber players, however you want to phrase it, right? That the grass isn't always greener. And, you know, guys, I get it. Everyone wants to go to LSU. Everyone wants to go to Texas. Everyone wants to go to Arkansas. Everyone wants to get offers from all these different schools. But you have to understand that it's so much bigger of a decision, right? We're talking about recruiting now. We're talking about playing college baseball. It's so much bigger of a decision to find what is best for you, Meaning, okay, I'll give you a couple examples and I'll let coach kind of go. But you gotta first of all, in my opinion, you gotta fall in love with the coach. The coach is gonna be your dad. And all the stuff that he talks about on your calls and recruiting visits, you could just throw that right in the trash, right? And you need to talk to players that have played for that coach and find out, is he at practice? Is he, a complete jag during practice? What is he true to what he's saying? On the flip side of that, you have to say, am I good enough to play baseball and to play at this school? There's no fun not playing. There's no fun riding the bench, right? Your goal, if you're going to play past high school, is to get on the field as fast as you can. Because other than that, you're nothing. You're not going to have fun when you're not playing. And at the end of the day, no one's got a crystal ball to say, yeah, if you go to this school, you're going to play. You're always going to have to compete. You're going to have to compete with guys in front of you. You're going to have to compete with guys behind you. That's no different than high school. It's just going to be at a much, much higher level when you get to a Division I or a really, really high Division II school. But at the end of the day I feel like you guys sometimes get trapped in the name of the school or the brand of the school, and you guys don't really find what's best for you. And I think Coach has some really, really good insight because he's dealt with some players in the past that maybe haven't gone to the best school for them. And, it's kind of worked out with the kind of the way that everyone sees it. And Coach, just talk a little bit about to these kids and give them some advice as they move forward, get closer to the recruiting and start kind of digging in with schools and maybe getting recruited by different recruiting coordinators and things like that. Talk on your experience with these high school kids.
Well, the one thing I would, especially now, especially with this, like the 2021 class, it's going to be a tough go for you guys as far as trying to find somewhere to go. And my advice would you be, don't get wrapped up in the baseball scholarship side of it. There are a lot of ways to get money to go to school. It doesn't matter how you get the money, whether it's your grades, whether it's some kind of supplemental scholarship that the school has. Don't be concerned about, well, how much baseball money you get. The bottom line is, what is the bill for your parents to go to school?
Yeah, that's right. I'm living it.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters. You can be a walk-on at a school that costs $17,000. Well, what's the difference between doing that, paying the 17 grand, or getting a 25% scholarship to something that costs 50 grand? Who's paying more? Right. So don't get all wrapped up in, I'm getting a scholarship. You got to find, like Coach Knapczyk said, the right fit for yourself, the right fit for maybe a major you want to get into, and the right fit for your family situation for sure. The next thing you want to do is, what is my best chance to get on the field? You got to believe in yourself, okay? If you're worried about who the school is bringing in before you or after you, then you don't have a lot of confidence in yourself, and you probably shouldn't be going to that school. You have to understand how each school works. Once you get from Louisville going down south, you're going to be walking in a situation with about 60 guys at fall ball, guys. That's just how it's going to be. And they carry 35. So 25 guys are going home or leaving at the break. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, I had a player last year head down to Arkansas. Really good player, got drafted, guys. Guy got drafted. She struggled his senior year, but he had a great junior year. I think he got pitched around and just kind of struggled with, all the scouts trying to sign him and kind of got out of whack a little bit with his swing. But he goes down to Arkansas and he breaks his hamate bone in his hand, and he's out of a job. Like, they're not keeping him. He's done. He didn't get a chance to really play. And so he ended up going to junior college. And so you have to you got to really understand the big schools, guys. They're going to tell you that they care about you, but they got to win. It's their job. It's their livelihood. They have a family. They might have been chasing this big job for 20 years. They might have been a grad assistant somewhere making nothing. And they're going to put the guys out there that are going to win. And then the guys are going to do really well. So sometimes I think it's better for the guys in our area to kind of stick around, because I think in the North you have a little bit of different mentality. You don't see a lot of guys getting cut. You don't see these huge rosters. You might have, 38 to 40 guys in the fall as compared, and then you're going to have a 35-man roster. So, there's going to be some injuries and stuff that happen there. So understand that there's 11 scholarships for 35 guys. So if everybody got an even piece, if everybody got an even piece, right? 30%. And we're not all going to get an even piece because the guys that get the money are the pitchers. If you got a good arm or if you got a good lefty bat or maybe a catcher behind the plate, those are going to be the guys that are going to get maybe a 60 or 70% thing. But those are rare. And some programs now, we just saw a couple baseball programs get dropped. Bowling Green dropped their program. Furman dropped their program. Some schools don't carry the 11 scholarships. So you got to understand that too. Like, just because Division I is 11 scholarships, that doesn't mean that every school supports 11 scholarships. Some have 9. I know some of the D schools can have, I think, 9 scholarships, possibly, Coach. I'm not really sure, but they only have 4. That's what their school gives them money for. So the money has to come from different places. So, it's find the right fit, wherever you feel comfortable. You got to understand too, the coach might not be there very long. So like the school has some dynamic to it. Like these coaches are moving all the time, especially if you commit as a sophomore, by the time you get there, he could be gone and somewhere else. And now you're playing for a totally different guy. It's a lot of dynamics in there. I say, here's the thing. And I think Coach Knapczyk and I talked about this. You got to find somebody you trust in, and you got to be able to handle when they say that you can't play at a certain place or a certain level, and understand that that coach cares about you and is trying to put you in the right spot. He is not telling you that because he thinks you stink or he doesn't think you're a good person. Okay. He's trying to tell you that because, I would tell you that because I've had experience with guys that got put in bad spots, and I knew it was a bad spot, but they didn't really want to believe it, And so you got to find that person. It could be anybody in the Sparks program. It could be anybody at your high school. You got to find that guy who has dealt with a lot of players, has sent players to a lot of different programs. He's seen what guys have made it in those programs and which have struggled. And you got to take his word for it and kind of use that a little bit as advice. And it's not an insult, okay, for a coach to tell you, I don't really think you're a Division I guy. That is not an insult. If someone told me out of college that I was a Division II guy, I would be super excited. I was an NAIA guy. All right. And you guys don't know what NAI is probably. You have no idea what I'm talking about. Okay. So please find that guy you trust and understand what he's going to say, and don't take it the wrong way. Take it the way as if he's trying to advise you, cares about you, and wants you to have a great 4 years.
Yeah. It's really, yeah. And guys, like that's about as well put as I've, you just got to be true to yourself. And if you can be true to yourself, true with your expectations, go with your gut, go with your feels, do your homework, everything's going to work out, right? If you put in the work, and I know all of you guys do, okay? Last thing before Coach closes us out, and I'm kind of stealing Coach's thunder a little bit here, but at the end of the day, when we talked earlier on the phone and it really hit home, if you're not coming out of this quarantine a stronger, more explosive, attacking your strength weaknesses, and you could do body weight stuff. There's so many ways to get creative, but if you're not transforming your body with how much time that you have right now, you're missing the boat. You're missing the boat. And, whether it's, attacking your weaknesses with yoga or Pilates or mobility, doing stuff like that. Don't tell me you don't have time right now to dial in your nutrition, right? You guys all should be dialing in your nutrition, because what you're going to figure out as you get older, that the fuel you put into your body is the output you're going to get in you're going to be like, when you start eating clean for the first time in your life, you're going to be like, man, I feel better. I have more energy. I'm able to pop up at 7:30 in the morning and I'm ready to go. Well, yeah, that's because of, the fuel you're putting in your body. So if you guys aren't messing around with, with nutrition ideas and, mobility, yoga, weights, whatever the case is, if you're not coming out of this thing a different animal, then you guys are missing the boat and you're not utilizing your time. The skill stuff's going to come, right? The at-bats are going to come, because you and I both know that when you sit in a cage for 20 minutes or an hour a day in the dome, you still need those 30 at-bats to feel right. You still need that feel, that game. That's like riding a bike for you guys. But if you guys are not attacking your bodies right now, you guys are really, really missing the boat. Coach, I'll let you talk on that, close us out, and then we'll get them out of here.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Like, guys, you don't need to be doing 9,000 drills right now. Okay, you're gonna have baseball back in two. Like, when you start playing, it's gonna take you about 2 weeks to get back, and you're gonna be right back to almost where you were. But you can really use this time to get stronger. I mean, that is an absolute that you can do to elevate your game. And I was talking to Coach Knapp. He was talking about his own son the other on the phone today. You're like, some of you guys don't ever get a break. Like, this is probably. I mean, I know it sucked. You don't want to miss your season, but some of you guys are always going full tilt that you never give your chance to your whole body just recover and get stronger and be ready to go. I think a lot of you guys are going to come out of this if you've been lifting weights and you're going to be like, Jesus, man, I'm freaking flying around the field. I'm hitting the ball farther, and I haven't played any in baseball. It's because you've made a dedication to your body, get yourself stronger, and then you're going to see the balls jumping off your bat. You got a little bit extra, but we might struggle with things like timing, and maybe you can't find the strike zone for a week or two as we get going and before you get some at bats. But that stuff's going to come back. I don't think you need to be like, taking 1,000 swings right now and 9 million ground balls and all those crazy drills you guys see on social media. That stuff's going to come back pretty quick because that's the stuff you've been doing your whole life. And then I got one more thing to share because Nick Brazzoni's texted me here and telling me I should tell a story. So this is my story about how I got signed at St. Xavier. He wanted me to share with you. So I had no offers, guys. We're talking about June. Could you imagine June of your senior year, not knowing where you're going to college to play baseball? I think all you guys are like, you guys want to know like in April of your freshman year where you're going to play baseball these days. So if you want to know in June, we're actually downstate. We had a really good team. I had no idea where I was going, but about a week before the season ended, my high school coach said, hey, the coach from St. Xavier is going to come over and watch because they just got done with their season. You guys know how it is. There's not a lot of college scouts at the high school games in the spring because they're playing their own games, but their season was over. He came to the game. I was all jacked up. My first at bat, I'm leading off the game. I get jammed and hit a twizzer back to the pitcher. But I sprinted right through the base, ran as hard as I could. And, the next inning we took the field and I saw that coach leaving and heading out. I was like, oh, geez, that wasn't good. I had one at bat. I got fisted. I mean, that guy's probably like, this guy sucks. I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm moving on to the next guy. I got home at 7 o'clock and I got a phone call and got offered a half scholarship that day. And he knew from my coach what kind of player I was. He knew that, who I could, that I could compete against, good competition. He just wanted to lay eyes on me and see, how I played the game. And it was just running hard down the first base. And that's all it takes sometimes, guys. As long as you have a track record. I mean, if he just showed up that day and had no idea who I was and didn't hear from my coach about all the good things, it probably wouldn't have turned into anything. But he had all the things that he needed to hear. He just had to come out and just take a look at what I was doing during batting practice and then leading in and taking pregame infield and then one at bat. And then there it goes. So you just always play hard. You never know who's watching. It starts when you're playing catch down the line before a game. It starts with the pregame. Most of the scouts, the only thing I hate about travel ball is that we never get to take pregame infield because I think the scouts always learn a lot about guys during that pregame infield. They never want to miss that. They always want to know what time you're taking pregame because they can see you throw to the bases. They can see you move around the field, have a little bounce in your step. Because sometimes in a game, you never, they come see you, you never get a ball, or you bat that day and you get walked 3 times, and they don't really get to see you move around. So,
hey, coach,
yeah,
just take it in and out in right field because that's what Coach Payton and I always did. We would set them up and we'd take it in and out in right field. Hey, real quick, I got Matt Hannafin. What does Coach Sefcik think of Jordan as a baseball player?
I tell you what, guys, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It wasn't bad. I know you guys have heard the stories. Double-A baseball is really tough. I mean, you're right there, and you're right on. Like when I was playing, a lot of guys are getting called up from Double-A. Triple-A is kind of a place where guys that kind of make it to the big leagues but can't really stick there, and then they kind of hang out Triple-A for a while. But Double-A, to go hit 200 in Double-A, I'll give you an example. I was playing in Triple-A one year in the Pacific Coast League, like around, and I was hitting like 330, leading the league. I got called up to the Rockies, got sent down in one day because they made a trade. It's the only reason they set up. So I refused my assignment. And I was able to become a free agent. So I signed a AAA contract with the Indians. I go to Buffalo, and in 3 months, I hit 198. Now, I was playing for 13 years of pro ball. All right. No, maybe it's 10 years. 10 years of pro ball now and hit 198 for 3 months. It's like I forgot. So for Jordan to go out there and not play any baseball for what, 10, 13 years and not play any professional baseball and to go out and hit 200 and knock in 50 runs and stole 30 bases, guys. I mean, it was pretty. I'm not saying he would have been a big leaguer. It would just been interesting to see. And by the way, how many guys are 6'6" that are good hitters?
No,
Like,
yeah,
like 6'6", that's a big strike zone to cover. And when you're a smaller guy, it's it's easier. It's actually a little bit easier to hit when you're a smaller guy because your strike zone's smaller and it's tough for the pitchers to get in there. But he was awesome. He was really awesome. He got on second base one time and he was just like a regular dude, like a regular dude. And after the game, I got a great story. After the game, I ran out to the bus, and their bus was all loaded up, and Michael was sitting in the front seat, and I had a nephew that I wanted to try to get an autograph for, and I ran on the bus and asked him to sign 2 baseballs, and it was no problem. And here's the other funny part of the story is that his manager was Terry Francona, who you guys know is the manager of the Indians now, but he was my manager at the Phillies. He got hired right after that year, and that's how he became the manager of the Phillies after he coached Michael Jordan. So actually ended up having Terry as my manager for 4 years.
That's cool. Another question. What high school did you go to?
Andrew.
Okay.
Yep.
Andrew T-Bolts. All right.
Andrew T-Bolts.
All right. Yeah, Coach, you got anything? Leave them with, and we're going to get out of here.
No, man, just keep going. I mean, we're going to play baseball again. I don't know when it's going to be, but we are going to play, and I feel so bad for you guys. I don't know what would happen if I had a season taken away from me in high school. I hated when there was rainouts. I can't imagine having a 60-day rainout right now. It's not good. So just hang in there. We will play ball again. One last thing, Coach, is, hey, if you guys can watch any of these old games that are on TV, I love them. Watching the 05 White Sox and just watching the way guys played. And the cool thing about it is those were winning teams. The 16 Cubs, the 89 Cubs, the 05 White Sox. Those are winning teams. It's always fun to watch how winning teams play. And trying to get that winning mentality, how they throw to the right bases, steal bases, and throw strikes as pitchers. So that's some cool stuff that you can take advantage of now.
Coach, thanks for joining us. Really good call today. All right. See you, boys. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. I'll see you guys on Sunday. Coach, thanks again for your time tonight.
All right. Good luck, man. We'll see you.
All right. Yep.